All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about the psychology and the science of how to achieve your goals. And to begin this, I'd like you to just write down 2 or 3 goals. Pause this video and write a couple down. And so the reason I asked you to do that is because that helps your ability, that increases your likelihood of achieving these goals. The simple act of setting goals, of writing them down, of kind of being specific and saying, this is a goal that I have, increases the likelihood that you'll achieve that thing. It turns it from kind of this vague thing that you hope happens to something that you're going to be more focused on. You're going to pay more attention to it. You're going to get a little more into planning, strategizing, and you kind of get excited about this because it's like, we want to win. And so you want to achieve your goals because you kind of get a little more motivated to do so. So that's the first idea of the psychology of goals, is have them. And so I encourage you to set lots of goals. And this is something I try to do on Mondays or Sundays. I'll say, okay, what are my goals for the week? Every now and then, okay, what are my intentions for the day? I've got a quarantine intentions calendar of things that I'm trying to achieve during these crazy times. What do I want to achieve this year? What do I want to achieve this week? Just spending 5 minutes doing that at the beginning of one of these periods can really make you live a more goal-directed life and increase your likelihood of achieving these things you want to achieve in life. But of course, not all goals are equally useful. And so you've maybe heard this before, this idea of SMART goals. This is something that's backed up by science. The best goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So instead of something like, hey, I'm hoping to lose weight, I'm hoping to jog more, it's something like, I'd like to lose 5 pounds by 2 months from now, or whatever a reasonable weight loss goal for you is. So it should be specific, measurable. You don't want it to be impossible. You don't want it to be too easy, something moderate to potentially high difficulty. And of course, it should be relevant to you, and having this deadline helps. And so all of these are pretty straightforward, I think. You can look at the goals you set and see whether they have these criteria, and I certainly encourage you to improve them. But the one that I think is most interesting is this one of relevance. You can take a given goal and make it even more relevant. You can make it matter to you even more than it does. Setting your own goals helps, and we'll talk about this in a second. But you can also raise the stakes by coming up with some sort of, for example, monetary punishment or incentive for achieving your goal. So this website that this links to is called Stick. And Stick basically has you pick a goal. I want to quit smoking, I want to lose weight, whatever it is, and also set a financial incentive to this. And the best financial incentives would be something like, you're going to donate $100 to this cause that you don't believe in. Maybe it's some politician you hate their re-election campaign. If I smoke another cigarette, I'm going to donate $100 to this person's re-election campaign. And you can increase the relevance or the stakes of this even more by committing publicly. So on this website, you can bring a referee in, and this person can basically be there to hold you accountable for not smoking those cigarettes and donating this money if you do. So those are some good ways to increase the likelihood of you achieving these goals. In the research in psychology and management shows that this idea of goal setting is one of the most powerful management techniques. And so in this study, they took a bunch of loggers, and they basically had this goal of, hey, try to haul a bunch of wood. And they set them in, they brought them in pretty quickly, and they said, hey, what's your goal for, how much wood you're going to haul in these trucks? So they had these people set their own goals, and they had them do it in a pretty specific and measurable way. And this very simple intervention, which was basically free and a very short time period, increased the amount of wood that these guys were hauling dramatically. They went from 60 to over 90% the legal allowable limit. And so with this very simple management intervention of bringing your employees in, having them set goals, this company saved $250,000 in 9 months. Similar study with a much bigger scale saved $2.7 million in 18 weeks just by having their employees set goals. And so, hey, you should try to do your best, try to sell as much stuff as you can, medium. Hey, here's your sales target, good. Hey, what should your sales target be? I'm going to have you set a goal. What should your sales target be? Better. They're setting it. And then you put that thing on the board. So now it's something that's even more relevant because there's this public incentive to it. So goals are good, but we also have this understanding that good intentions have a bad reputation. If you tell someone you're setting a New Year's resolution, they're going to kind of laugh a little bit. And for good reason. The research shows that only 10% of New Year's resolutions are actually achieved. And I think the problem is often what we're doing is we're sitting around waiting for opportunity to knock. We've got this goal intention, this endpoint, we're waiting for opportunity, but opportunity can knock very quietly and be very easy to miss. So how can we be better at recognizing these opportunities to help us achieve our goal? So that's where the idea of implementation intentions comes in. This is probably my favorite thing I've learned in my time studying consumer behavior and psychology. This is what I think is the most useful thing that I have ever learned in terms of making myself a happier and more functional person. You know, if you can be better at achieving your goals, you're kind of good at everything. And to me, this is how you do it. So this is based on a long career of research by a man named Peter Gollwitzer. And he says that instead of just saying, yeah, I want to lose 10 pounds, what we should do is specify the when and the where and the how for a situation like this. So you might say something like, when I find myself with food still on my plate and I'm no longer very hungry, I will stop eating. When I get off work and I've got a little time before dinner, I will take a jog. When I'm at a restaurant and they have a salad that looks pretty decent, I will order that salad. So we're setting up these little if-then statements or when-then statements. And these work shockingly well. They just take, a few minutes for you to really think it through. And they work really, really well because they kind of set up this association between the opportunity and the behavior. This idea of I'm going to lose weight, you're kind of going to assume that you're always carrying around this goal and it's always salient in your mind, but it isn't. You get distracted, you focus on other stuff. But by setting up these implementation intentions, you've set up a situation such that when the perfect opportunity presents itself that you've decided is a really good opportunity, that will remind you that this is a good opportunity to achieve that goal. And it'll do it in a way that you've basically already concluded that this is the perfect time for you to do this thing. So it's a really, really powerful strategy. And it works for big goals like, trying to get that promotion. Okay, what are you going to do? How are you going to do that? What's the when and the ifs that will lead you to perform goal relevant behavior? But it also works for really minor things. Oh, I hope I remember to pick up eggs on my way home from work today. Not bad. When I get into my car after work and put the key into the ignition, then I will remember to go get eggs. That actually works really, really well. You set up this vivid cue in your environment of you putting the keys in the ignition, and that's going to remind you of eggs next time you get in that car. So I really, really encourage you to try this out. I'll show you a quick study that looks at this. So this works especially well if kind of getting started is difficult, right? And so in this study, Peter Gollwitzer had his students give him an opportunity to do this extra credit assignment. You have to write an essay about how you spent your Christmas, but you have to do that thing on Christmas. So that's a really hard goal, but he made it a really nice extra credit, so everyone wanted to do it. Everyone had that goal intention. But he had half of them just spend 2 minutes saying these if-then, when-then implementation intention statements. When I wake up in the morning and my family doesn't know I'm awake yet, then I will work on my paper. When my parents are cooking dinner, that's when I'll work on it. When everyone goes to bed, that's when I'll do the paper, whatever. And so you set up these if-then statements, and it doesn't take long to do. And he shows that that increases people's likelihood of actually doing this extra credit from something like 70% to 25%. And he finds massive effects in a lot of these studies where he's like tripling the likelihood of people achieving this goal by just having them do this really simple act of forming these implementation intentions, which just takes a few minutes. So this works very, very well. And I would encourage you to take a look at those goals in front of you and any other goals you're willing to set and really think about these implementation intentions. If this happens, then I'll do this. When this happens, then I'll do this. Okay. Another way in which you can be more likely to achieve your goals based on science is to have a better understanding of how habits work. The vast majority of our life is habits. Your weight loss goal is very likely a weight or an eating habit problem. If you do something consistently a few times, such as open the fridge when you get home from school or work, that's going to become a habit. If there's any sort of reward in there, such as that tasty feeling of that food, you're going to keep doing that thing and you're going to do it really automatically. And so having an understanding of how habits work gives you some insight into how to start new habits, how to start good habits, and to how to break those old problematic ones. And so here we have two videos that are both from a guy named Charles Duhigg based on his research on habits. He wrote a cool book about it, which I'll tell you about later. In this one, he basically says, okay, if you want to start this jogging habit, what you should do is go for a jog. And a good way to do that is to set up a cue in your environment. I'm going to put my shoes next to my bed so that when I wake up in the morning, I see the shoes and that reminds me to go jogging. Good. He also says when you get back from that jog, eat some chocolate. And what you're doing is kind of wiring your neural anatomy such that you're feeling this sense of reward, right? You're feeling good. You're reinforcing that behavior of going for that jog. So you've got your cue, the behavior you're actually doing, such as going for the jog, and the reward. And that's the key to setting up habits. He also has another video about kind of breaking problematic habits. And he tells the story of he eats lots of cookies. He's got this cue in his environment where if it's 3 o'clock on a work day, he goes and gets his cookie. But he realizes that really what he wanted, why he was engaging in this go to the cafeteria and talk to friends and buy a cookie routine was because the reward he was seeking was social interaction. Cut out that cookie, still when that cue comes, he did this nice substitution effect. Still get that reward, still feel good. And so this psychology tells us, for example, why something like Nicorette gum or vaping is a better way to quit smoking cigarettes than something like a nicotine patch. You've got this craving. You want to perform some behavior that gives you some reward, and something like Nicorette gum works pretty well at that, right? Compared to something like this patch that you've been wearing for a day. So understanding how habits work is a good way to achieve your goals. Finally, we've got some more goal achievement tips as one of our last slides this. So Peter Gollwitzer has done all this cool work on implementation intention. His wife has also built on that, and she added what I think is a very important idea of thinking about obstacles. So in addition to having these if-then statements and recognizing opportunities, you should also recognize obstacles. What's going to stand in your way from achieving these goals, and how are you going to overcome those challenges? It's a really good way to help you achieve your goals. And she has a nice website and a bunch of videos about WHOOP, which is this system for setting up these wishes and obstacles and so on. Some other research says you should focus on your strengths. We often have a tendency to say, okay, I'm going to be better at this thing that I'm horrible at. But often we're better off in terms of success in improving the things we're actually good at. You should also think about milestones. It's really easy to get discouraged. I'm going to get a promotion in 10 years. It's a hard goal because it's so far out. So give yourself all these little sub goals along the way that you can feel good about and motivated to as you achieve all of these smaller outcomes. Another one here is watch out for the middle. A ton of research shows that people are really motivated at the beginning. You know, I'm going to lose 10 pounds. Pound number 1, here we go. And also at the end, right? 1 more pound to go, I'm almost there. And so people tend to lose focus in the middle, right? You've lost a few pounds, you're feeling okay about it, there's still a long way to go. So really be careful in the middle and really set an intention to, like, even in the middle of this, I'm going to stick with it. Some don'ts for goal achievement: don't set too many goals, don't set difficult goals. You saw a lot of this with the SMART goal stuff. One that I think is really fascinating is the research shows that beating yourself up for small failures actually makes it worse. So if you're trying to quit smoking or try to eat healthier and you smoke that cigarette or eat that cake, some of us would go, oh, I'm an idiot, I suck, I'm horrible, what a jackass I am. But that beating yourself up actually makes it worse. Forgive yourself. This is hard. Practice a little bit of self-compassion. Read about self-compassion. It's a brilliant practice. recognize that, hey, we're all going through these challenges. There's a lot of shared humanity in this. Give yourself a break, hop back on that wagon. And finally, we have the idea of grit. So this is a really nice TED Talk from a woman named Angela Duckworth based on her research on grit. She finds that in most cases, it's not really about how skilled you are that determines whether you achieve the outcomes you want. It's really just about whether you give up. And so this idea of grit is basically an idea of don't give up and you'll make it there. So some more readings on this. There's a paper by Gollwitzer called Implementation Intentions, Strong Effects of Simple Plans. Really short article, good overview of implementation intentions. We've also got The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, Grit by Angela Duckworth. And I wanted to add some research by Carol Dweck. She finds some really cool stuff where if you are someone who believes that growth is possible, that we can change ourselves, that really, really helps us achieve our goals, really, really helps us overcome setbacks along the way. And so this idea of mindsets in her book about it, I think can teach you this idea that, hey, we can change. And the belief that we can't change, the belief that our deep characteristics are fixed, is actually one of the biggest problems that people have in terms of just giving up when things get hard and not achieving their goals. So that's it. That's my advice for how to achieve your goals. And I'll see you in the next video on relationships.